we're here. Bryce from ACI Dynamix.
How's it going?
When did you realize cars are, like, I love cars, and also when did you realize, like, I want to work on them? Like, I want to create custom cars, create stuff that nobody else is doing.
So I think for me, it started off in like the quadding and motocross. You know, as a young kid, I started off as having quads and dirt bikes. And at the time, my dad was like, listen, you know, I want to race motocross. And he was like, okay, well, it's fine. And, you know, when I got into racing with the motocross, it was like, well, I got to rebuild the top end every other race. And my dad's not going to pay for that. And I don't really want to work either. So I'm going to buy the parts and I'm just going to do it myself. And there were some epic failures with me wrenching on my own stuff right off the get-go that my dad bailed me out with. But, you know, I became better at it and better at it, rebuilding the top ends every other race, you know, going back to the pits, tearing everything down, getting ready for the next race, doing my own stuff, you know, prepping the bike. So it became wrenching on that stuff. And then when I turned 16, I was like, well, I don't like this anymore. I want a fast car because I can drive now and I can do my own thing. I remember my first car that I ever like really got into was I think it was a 1993 Integra. And looking back, it was slow. It hurt, but it was a fun car. I had fun with it. And again, you know, it was like, well, let me self-wrench my own stuff. Like, I don't have money to bring it to a shop and pay for someone to do it, so I'm going to just do my own mods. I'm going to do my own stuff. And I think that really what drove into being, you know, working on the cars. I'm like, oh, I like this. And then I started going to normal college. So I went 2 semesters, and I remember being, I think it was like history class or whatever it was, or US second, I don't know, it was some class. And I'm sitting in the class, and I'm just listening to the bullshit coming out of the professor's mouth, and I'm like, I'm all set with this. Like, I don't need to hear this shit. So I dropped out. I remember dropping out and not telling my parents that I'm just not going to go to college anymore. And then they got all the paperwork in the mail that they had to pay for everything. And I had like, it was like, I don't know, there was like a bunch of just zeros and Fs that I didn't finish the classes. My mom was like, so like, you've been doing nothing in school? I'm like, no, I'm just not going anymore. And she's like, that's awesome, because we just paid for that, and you have 2 choices. You have 2 weeks to decide what you want to do, because you're gonna kick you out of the house if you don't know what you want to do. So I decided to go to diesel school. I figured, you know, hey, diesel, like, it's not automotive, and there was more money in the industry because on highway trucks you can do marine, gen sets. So there was more money to be made in the diesel industry, and I knew a couple of kids that were actually diesel mechanics that did well. So I went to a 2-year school for diesel. I worked for a couple of shops, and you know, like I said, then it transpired to kind of wrenching on myself on the side, and then transpired into opening up a shop. And then from there, it was just, you know, we did mechanic work, and it was funny. So like, you talk into getting into kind of the customization. So one day, Nick was here working in the shop. I actually wasn't even here at the time. I wasn't full-time, and Mike had walked in the door, who's now our full-time vinyl wrap guy. You know Mike really well. And Mike was like, hey, I just quit my job. Like, can I vinyl wrap for you guys? And we're like, yeah, I guess. I don't know. Like, what's vinyl? And he's like, no, like, you know, I used to do like the commercial wraps on the trucks and stuff like that, but I didn't like my boss, so I quit. And I'm like, man, I don't have any vinyl work, but I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't know if you go and start getting some roof wraps in here and whatever you want to do, like, you know, we can figure out a percentage, just take some money, and yeah, let us start doing it. So Mike started wrapping out of here, and in the meantime, he got another job, so he was working somewhere else, just doing, you know, partial wraps, roof wraps, small stuff. And then we started getting busier, full wrap. And Mike was like, dude, like, I can't come here at night and do full wraps and like still have my job. And I'm like, I don't know, dude, like, you need to decide, do you want to quit or like not do it here? Like, I don't really know, tell you, you got to decide that. And he comes in one day, he's like, yeah, I quit my job today. I'm just going to come here full time. And I'm like, all right.
Cool.
So, you know, it was a series of events like that really led to the whole thing, because we were essentially a mechanic shop, and then Mike started wrapping. And then with the wraps comes like, oh, the wrap looks cool. I want to do painted calipers, or I want powder coated wheels, or, you know, I want to wrap my interior. So it started off as a mechanic shop, which then evolved into customization. And then with the customization, with the vinyl wrapping, like, hey, I want to do performance, I want to do wheels. And then the neon lights came into it. So it was like a series of events that really fell into place and doors open that created what it is now today with people that came in here, you know. And you know, he left his job. Nick had left his job because he was working here at night. So they both quit. They came on full time. And then, you know, we just we got at it. We just got after it and really dug and got the business rolling. And even Mike, he started the vinyl from the ground up. He quit his job, came here. And I remember when he quit his job, his boss told him, don't quote me exact on this, but his boss told him, good luck owning your own business. Good luck, like, you know, all you do is wrap cars. You're never gonna make a living out of it. Yeah. Mike was like, well, like, whatever, like, I'm gonna try. I'm young, and like, whatever happens. And here he is now. I think it's like 3 years later, and he's booked until September right now. So
yeah, anytime I come in here, he's like full on into it.
Yeah, it's nonstop.
You can't even get his attention. Yeah. So focused, so zoned in. Just, I mean, they're doing that one right here. he was working on that when we walked in. But
You talk about like the supercar aspect of it, you know, going from your everyday cars into now, how'd you get into supercars? How are you working on, you know, we did a Porsche 918, you know, $1.2 million car, might even more than that now. You know, McLaren's $300,000, you know, all these crazy, well, how do you get into that? Well, I guess it's not by accident. I mean, your quality of work speaks that. It always takes someone to break the ice. You know, when you go into that room and it's like an awkward conversation and no one wants to have it, but then you break that ice and then everybody's friends, everybody wants to go out and have a drink and party together. You guys are the best. I never met you before. It's kind of like the same thing with a car. You know, that first person brings that exotic car and you're like, oh my God, it's a Lamborghini. We're working on a Lamborghini. And, you know, people see that and they're like, okay, well, he did his car. Well, I'm going to bring mine. Let me take a shot with it. They did a good job on that one. And when it becomes the norm, it's like, okay, well, now they worked on a 918. They worked on 720s. You know, Martin's car, this kid had the interior ripped apart on. There was wires hanging everywhere. That car came out great. He had no complaints. So, you know, it really takes someone to believe in what you do to bring that first car there. And then, you know, it becomes after that. It's like, okay, wow, they're banging these out. This is becoming a norm. I mean,
just like,
you had your RS5 and then you guys got a 720 and it's like, you know, what made you guys bring the 720 back here? You could have went to, there's other shops that are closer to you. There's other people that do customization. You know, I mean, you could maybe answer that. What brought you, say, hey, we bought the 720. Let's bring it down to Bryce and let him go nuts with the car. You know, we had the RS5.
Mean, what kind of was like a deal breaker, or not deal breaker, but what made me decide, yeah, we're going to work with ACI was when we came down for that first time to meet you with the Audi. And you walked us around the shop and showed us kind of what you guys are doing and talked about all the different ideas. And I originally wanted to supercharge it. And I think the one we were looking at was like almost like a $20,000 supercharger. And you were just like, no, like I'm not doing that to your car. Like you have way too many miles on it. You're about to go on a 3,000 mile journey through Europe. If anything happens, like, I don't feel comfortable putting that in there. So I kind of just was like, all right, he's going to turn down this money to make sure the build is right. He's not here to just make, like, this isn't a job for him. It's more about actually building the good car rather than just getting a bigger check. So that's what originally was like, boom, we're locked in. We're working with ACI. And after seeing the quality of the Audi after it being done, just watching that garage door go up, I just knew. I was like, yeah, we're gonna do some cool shit here.
Yeah.
I didn't even think twice about coming back after that. Like it would feel wrong going anywhere else.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, and it's like, you know, you give us the freedom to do that too, though. So when you bring a car, you're like, hey, this is kind of what I want. But whatever, I'm cool with whatever you want to do. You know, where some clients come in, they're like, no, this is what I want. You don't change anything. And it doesn't give us that flexibility to really give it our dynamic on it and what we want to do. So that's pretty cool.
So you get typically, it's better when you can work together and kind of get your spin on it too. And you come up with stuff that I probably wouldn't have even thought about. And like with all the lights and everything underneath.
Or where we did the orange accents on your car. I know you wanted some orange stuff, but then we ended up doing all striping.
My mind with it.
And I think it still looks good. And then Joe wanted it on his car because he had the orange. He wanted on the red on his car. So, and then other people vibe off of what we do with that. So that's pretty neat. But I think, you know, it goes back to, again, doing the original gumball car with you guys. And then, you know, when that came into effect with Dream Ride, you know, then you're like, hey, what else can we do? We had an awesome time on the rally. And we're like, hey, well, we do a few other things. And I think that's where it was a turning corner on really a lot of things that came from that.
Yeah. And since that same year, Dream Ride, we've been there every year. It's brought a whole world of people as well together from that, and just being able to go out there and show off all the cars and create such a wonderful experience for all the athletes and something they remember every day probably. And it's just insane how many people show up too, and that's been great getting into all those different car shows, the New York Auto Show with you. And
I mean, I think you've been like just creating the memories off that. You look back of the auto show, having the fun, hanging out, the build, the process behind it, which turns into like more of a family and fun thing. And that's the payoff for me, honestly. The clients that we build relationships with, and then we go throughout life and have those people, you know, as family, friends, and people look down and help out and stuff like that. You go back to that driving factor of, you know, rally to give. You know, you look at the car industry as a whole, it's all based off of being a family. You know, you start with one client, you do Dream Ride. You know, from Dream Ride, it turns into, you know, again, Santino came out to Dream Ride, turns into, hey, I'm going to do a go-kart race for Special Olympics, which ties into it. Now I meet more people.
Yep.
You know, you guys, hey, I had a blast on at Dream Ride. We had a blast. What can we do? We want to start something. You know, I think that's, you can kind of, how you and Rick started that. I mean, you could speak to that.
Yeah, so that's kind of after doing the gumball and coming back and seeing what Dream Ride was all about. After that, it kind of, we can't be doing stuff in the car world unless we're giving back. It brings so many people together from so many different walks of life, and to be able to gather 35 cars to spend a weekend together on the road and just create new relationships and friendships, and you create another family too.
Yeah.
Everyone spends the 3 days together, and it's maybe those are the only 3 days you spend with that person throughout the year, but it's like you saw them yesterday.
Yeah.
And you've been a huge help by doing all the stickers and also bringing other people into the rally as well. We've had a few other guys come from that I've met from the shop, and it just draws everyone back together.
Well, we're going on what? This is me the 4th year of the rally? What do we
Yeah,
do
this will be the 4th year. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we started the first year up in Vermont, just like small little thing, only a 2-hour drive to lunch and back. And we did that for the local rescue team. And then after that year, we decided, all right, step it up a notch. Let's get a couple days on this, and did some work with Special Olympics. Then the year after, we did Make-A-Wish, and it's great to see everyone come together and enjoy the same weekend for the same reasons, but also enjoy just as much as one another the whole aspect of giving for everyone.
Yeah.
And to be able to get a family together, to be able to make somebody else's like dream come true or change their life almost, it's really cool to see it all happening.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it's, you know, people will get the call, hey, I'm having a birthday party. Hey, can I bring my son to sit in a Lambo? I mean, you know, you get these things you worked hard for in life, but like if you can't share that with someone, then it's like, why have it? Like if I'm gonna have it and park it in my garage and no one could touch it and no one could look at it or whatever, like it's like you know you do these rallies, you know, you're giving back to different people, but it's like even when you go to these towns and these people that don't normally see these cars,
you see
the
people on the sidewalk,
and they freak
every
out and they love it.
smile or reaction you get when 25 cars come through, and they're like, have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, they're like going nuts and they're taking pictures and hey,
but
can I
they're
sit in the car?
remember that forever.
Yeah, when we got into New York, we came right over the border. Yeah.
Where he showed up and we were just waiting for everyone to get through the border, and he comes over, like, recognized Santino, and I think he had just came back from church.
Yeah.
And was just like, it brought tears to his eyes.
I was coming back home and I saw them, and I saw the Porsche. I never thought I'd be able to see this before, let alone them. Rally all day, rally to give.
It's just like I live in the middle of nowhere. I've never seen any of this other than on the internet.
Yeah, I got to meet everybody and
like,
see the cars.
Now he's got to meet his favorite IndyCar racer. Just what are the odds of that?
Right.
And that's going to be something that he remembers the rest of his life.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, let's go for a little walk around.
Yeah, take a walk around. See what we got in here today.
Yeah. Show us a little bit of what you do.
So this one's kind of wide body. This one's been through several phases. So this is.
I remember those wheels being off for a while.
Yeah.
When am I getting my wheels?
Exactly. So you see the repeat clients, and that's what keeps you in business, is having the repeat clients that come back again and they want more work done in their car.
Yep.
You don't want the one and done. Hey, I'm never going to come back to you again. You want to build a relationship where they come back. This car again. This is another repeat client. He had a white one of these before. He sold to a guy in North Carolina. Bought another one, and now he's wrapping it like the copper color. This one was Lambo Ryan, so you probably can pull up a picture on it, what it originally looked like. And we're going V2 on it now. So we're installing all the kind of the crazy lights on side here. We're putting strobes in the bumper on it. He's got a whole reflective crazy wrap that's going on it. So this car is going to be pretty much a version 2 of what he originally had on the car. So stay tuned for this. This should be coming out probably end of August. We should have something done on this.
So this whole side you do like all the wrapping, the detailing.
Yeah, yep.
All the
paint protection film, ceramic coating.
Attention to detail.
Attention to detail. The clean work, I guess, so you would say on it, So everything, that's kind of starts over there with the mechanic side, ultimately kind of ends here for, the ceramic coatings on the car, the vinyl wraps.
Different colors of vinyl.
Yeah, those are just a few of the cars we've done and colors
Whatever
we've done.
leftovers, and then
So this one over here, this is just a wide body GTR. This one's been through 3 phases of ACI, from just full bolt on to doing the wide body with the rivets, which originally had the rivets on it, to then saying, I don't want the rivets anymore, I want everything fully molded. So this was a Rocket Bunny kit that originally had the rivets that were on it, that's now fully molded, fully painted, and fully redone on it. So yeah, you can see these are some serious wheels that are going on the back of this thing. So I think these are 12-inch wide. So yeah, put some big tires on this thing. This is one of my personal favorites, right-hand drive Supra. Timeless classic. I mean, I probably out of any car in here, even in the shop or that's been in the shop in a long time, this is probably one of my most favorite iconic cars. You know, it's right-hand drive. This thing was imported from Japan. So this is a collaboration I'm doing with a client. We're building the car together on this, and this is one we were talking about in the video. We're probably gonna go for like around 1,000 wheel on this car. So pretty excited for where this one's gonna come on this.
destroy some
Supercars. This one, I bought this car. This is actually my car. I bought this car just for rallying. So I haven't redone it since our last one because we haven't really rallied much, but still has some of the logos on it from the sponsors from the last rally we did. You can see we got beat up a little bit from the rally, but that's okay. Those are battle wounds. You talked a lot of shit about you in the video.
Yeah.
I tell you how you quit your job to come here and everything. He's like, how did Mike start? I'm like, hey, he walked in here one day. I wasn't here. And Nick was here and was like, hey, you guys need someone to do some vinyl wrapping? And we're like, yeah, fuck it, yeah, why, vinyl wrap. Yeah, see? So this is the chaotic side of the shop too. Well, these are the wrenchers over here. They love to yell, play loud music. So you go from a quiet side over there to the loud side over here.
Loud and dirty.
There's a few jobs we're doing. That one's the Alpha 12 GTR I was talking about. So full 1,200 wheel horsepower. It's a Lamborghini motor. We're basically building on that. I think the motor's hiding somewhere in a pile of parts over there. 675 LT up there doing pure turbos on it.
Is that Joe's?
Yeah, that's Joe's, yeah. Yep.
Watch your head.
This is your Huracan motor. So if you ever want to see what the Lamborghini V10 looks like, there you go. That's it all apart in pieces right now. So this, my friends, is going to be a 700 horsepower Subaru. So this is a Subaru fully built.
Supercar.
Yeah, fully built block from IAG. Stage 3 cams on it. Precision single turbo, so it's got a rotated turbo set on it. Yeah, this thing's gonna make some jam for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. This was a Porsche Boxster. It was originally a Boxster S. He wanted a turbo kit, so we put a turbo kit on it. Basically blew the valve seals out of it. So now we did a full build on the motor. So it's a full motor build on it, yeah.
Yep.
Turbo kit up here.
Oh, wow.
X4M, we just picked it up at the dealer, actually in Springfield.
Oh, wow. That interior is amazing.
So we just picked up this car today. K40, paint protection film, full ceramic pro. Basically the works, getting the works on it. You know, and then you talk about, so from supercar to everything in between, the Mazda Speed 3.
Yep.
Regular maintenance. We're throwing a starter in it. Needed a starter. Great, all this stuff. Doesn't matter, brake pads, you need a starter, you need AC recharge. Just because you see all the glitz and glamour in the motor builds, doesn't mean that's all we do.
There's no discrimination at all. You work on anything.
We'll do everything, man. It doesn't really matter what it is. This is.
I mean, you even had one of my buddies go help wrap a boat with you, or do the boat work.
Yeah, he just ran pro on a boat with us. Yeah. Thank God you had him come down. That was a tough one. That was a lot of work on that.
So it doesn't even stop with cars. What created your whole passion for? Like, how'd you know I'm really gonna take this leap and this is what I'm gonna do and I'm gonna be the best out of anyone? And what keeps you pushing forwards to just keep expanding? And
I think really it's the passion to do it. You know what I mean? It's like, for me, the everyday norm doesn't work for me. I need to be challenged. You know, it's like one thing, you know, we get slow for a week, you know, maybe we're not. In my mind, I say I'm slow. My guys will tell you otherwise. But it's like the passion to drive. How much can we get done? What can we do? What can we innovate? For me, it wasn't like ever an option of just like doing nothing or just hanging out. Like, I always have to have a drive to do something. Like, you know what I mean? If we're slow here, I'll go out and buy a car and just build it myself because I need something to do. But going back to, you know, where we were when I was working at the state, you know, for that was like more of a 9 to 5. You just got up in the morning, you went to work, you did your 8 hours, you ate your lunch, you took your 15-minute break, you went home at the end of the day. Like, that for me wasn't a life. That's not what I wanted. You know what I mean? I'd rather put in 24 hours straight of working for myself than to work 8 hours for someone and go home at the end of the day. I mean, for instance, like, you know, the other day I traveled, I was out obviously working in Chicago on the IndyCar. I got up at 3 a.m., I flew out to Chicago, I rented a car, I drove to the shop, that was a half hour, did what I had to do on the car, drove back to the airport and flew home. I got home at midnight that night. So what started at 3 a.m. turned into getting home the next day. But I'd rather do it any day of my life than to work in a 9 to 5 and for someone else than do it for myself and say I could do it for myself. And you know, I think when you start a business, I don't think it's easy. No, I mean, I don't know many people that say, hey, I started a business and it was easy. There wasn't heartache, there wasn't failure. I think the big thing with the business, you know, a lot of people don't like to talk about it or say, hey, this is my failure, this is things we failed at. You know, we just talked about all the cars that, hey, this went great, this was awesome, your party was awesome. But people don't realize what you go through when a car doesn't go right or, you know, something doesn't go right. When I first started the business, you know, which was now going on 8 years ago, I had a partner, you know, and it didn't go so well with him. I ended up being $300,000 in debt starting the business, you know, and here it is at the beginning of the business. You know, I told my wife, yeah, it's the best thing, I'm going to quit, I'm going to do this. And then I come home and say, hey, by the way, you know, I'm not getting along with my partner, we're 300 grand in debt. Like, that's not an easy conversation to have with someone. So I think that was the thing. And it's like, at that point, like, failure wasn't an option. Like, I'm not going to fail for my family, I'm not going to fail for my wife. So whatever I got to do to get out of this, I'm going to do it, you know. And then within a year, I dug out of that. And that was kind of like the driving factor of like, I just want more out of this, you know what I mean? And I'm going to do it for myself. And whoever's on board with me is going to be on board, and whoever's not going to be on board. And I think if you ask a lot of my guys, you know, what do you think? They'll say that this is just as much a part of their business, that this is part of them as it is mine. And I don't say that, like, I don't walk around.
Well, yeah,
you know,
it's like a little, like you said, there's the families in the rally and car world, but then you got another family here too.
Right, exactly. And the thing is with these guys, like, you know, they're my family here, you know, they're all part of it. But at the end of the day, like, you know, clients come in here and they're like, they don't know who the owner is because I'm Bobby sweeping the floor or I'm vacuuming the carpets. And they're like, oh yeah, that's the owner over there. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's vacuuming the carpets? Because to me, it doesn't matter. I'll go clean the bathroom over there. Yeah. I'll vacuum the carpet, whatever I have to do to make this business run the way it's got to, look the way it is, be clean the way it is, and that's what I got to do. And that's part of being the hustle with it and getting through it. And you know, the failures of, you know, again, going back to what car, you know, we did a motor job. Okay, the car blew up. All right, well, that wasn't supposed to happen, but now how do we fix that? You know, so now you're going back to a job you should have made a good amount of money on, and you're actually making, let's say, negative $6 grand on the job because something went wrong. And you're only as good as your failure. So if you set yourself apart from that failure, being like, okay, you could tell the customer, hey, that's your problem, I'm not going to deal with it. That's not how I roll. I'll take the $6,000-$7,000 loss. I'm going to make it right. I'm going to work on the car, and it's going to be good when you get it. You know, to say on some of your builds something didn't go wrong when we were doing it, that's a lie. You know what I mean? We've had issues with any car that we're here. It's just how you get around that, how we portray it to you, or if you even know about it, we just get it done, and it's better than the failure that was on the car. You know? Yeah, I mean, those are some of the things people really don't see that go on, that are, you know, behind the scenes project. They see the end, they see the auto show, the glitz, the glamour. This is awesome. These cars look great, but the heartache or the time that these guys put in to make that car look the way it does. You know?
Yep.
I never thought, honestly, if you asked me 8-9 years ago, would I see this? Would I have seen what I'm doing now? Did I ever think of this? No, I honestly couldn't tell you that I did. You know what I mean? But you know.
So what does 8 years from now look like then?
I don't know. I mean, there's definitely things on the horizon. I mean, I always keep open things. You know, we're working with a lot of celebrity clients, high-end clients now. So who knows? You know, I mean, you know, we talked about starting a YouTube channel. You know, maybe, you know, we'll see where that goes. I mean, it's really, it's an endless limit. I mean, you do whatever you want. If you put your mind to it, you can kind of do whatever you really want to do. So. I can't answer that, but in 8 years from now, if we have this conversation, which we probably will, because I'm sure we're definitely going to be friends in 8 years from now, who knows? It could be in a different building. It could be in 2 locations, maybe one in Florida. I'm not really sure yet.
Yep.